we're going to look at a few more details about for when you're creating calendar events. So I can create a calendar event by double clicking on a calendar day or by clicking create. And obviously you've probably created a calendar event before. This is a shortened version of the calendar event. So I'm just going to click on more options so we can take a look at all of the options. First of all, obviously you can change the date and times of your calendar events right here, and obviously add in a title. Just a few things on here that you may not have noticed is, one thing is you can obviously click on find a time. So one of the things that you can do when you're trying to find a time is if you start adding guests to the meeting, you'll see the guests calendars show up so that you can see like who's busy and who is available. And so it makes it easier to find a time that you're all available. I'm going to go back to event details. A couple other items here. If you add obviously you can add video conferencing. If you do add video conferencing and you want to share the joining information with people, first of all, if you add them as a guest to the meeting, they will automatically receive this in their calendar event. They'll have the link. But you can also copy the joining information right here, and then you can paste that into an email message and send it to them that way as well. If you wanted to add a live stream, you can just click the little caret. It gives you more options, and this is where you would click to add a live stream event to this. If I add a location to my meeting, it could be any address. Now the people who are in this event, they'll be able to click on the location and it will open in Google Maps, and they'll actually get directions that way if they need to. Now these are set based on my default calendar settings, but right now I'm going to get a reminder of this meeting 3 minutes before the meeting. You can go ahead and change that. I can just make it a regular notification and not get an email if I decide I don't want it. And if I don't want the notification 10 minutes before, I can just X it off. You can also add additional notifications for this meeting if you want to. Now I can choose, this is going to go on my main calendar, but if I want it to be, to go on a different calendar that is part of one of my calendars, like for instance, my personal calendar, I can choose that. Please do not choose computer labs from this list. This is not the ideal way to sign out a lab. You also can determine whether or not during this event you want to be shown as busy or free. So if someone's trying to schedule an event and they choose that find a time option, are you going to be, even though you have an event, you want to be shown as free. Usually you would just leave this as busy, but you can make yourself available if you want to. Now the default visibility, this is the event a private event or a public event? So the default visibility is that anybody who searches for this event in the Fayetteville Manlius District could see it, or other people who are part of your, who've been invited to the event, like Tim obviously would be able to see it. If I make it private, now it's a private event on my calendar and only I would be able to see it. So that's why you might want to, if you want to have an event, maybe it's a reminder to yourself to do something, and you set it as a calendar event, but you really don't want anyone else to see that on your calendar, that's when you would go ahead and make that private. This little section here is nice because this is where you can add file attachments for your meeting, like for instance an agenda. You can add any links that need to go, or you can just type in a description for the meeting or some notes here for that everybody who's invited to the meeting would be able to see. This is a new feature where you can create meeting notes for the meeting. And what this does is kind of cool, is it creates a Google Doc for you. And the document ends up being created with everybody who is invited to the meeting would have access to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and create that. Over here, I just want to mention this section. I'm going to show you that in a second. We'll circle back to this in just a second after I create the event. Now in guest permissions, this is like, for instance, do I want Tim to be able to modify the event? This is not set as a default, but maybe you want him to be able to modify it in case he ends up having to change the time. Then he can just adjust the time to the meeting without having to email you back and forth. You can, if they can modify the event, they can by default invite others and see the guest list. Usually we leave it so that the default is that anyone who's invited to the event can also invite others to the event, but you can turn that off if you don't want outside people with the ability to invite others. Now, if you were going to sign out a computer lab, I know this is an entirely different video, but that is done under rooms, and this is where you would find the rooms in your building. So for instance, if you teach at the high school, you would click on the high school and you would see, you're only going to see right now the rooms that are available during this time period. So right now, only the 2231 lab is available. So if I wanted to sign that out, I would click this room right here. More details on signing out computer labs are in a different video though. Let me go ahead and just save this event. Do I want to send an invitation, an email? If that would send an email to everybody who's part of the event, I'm going to just, normally I would say yes, but I'm going to say no since this is a fake event right now. So the event is now on my calendar, and here it is. Now if I click right on the event, I can go right to that notes that I just created. And what this is a Google Doc now that Google kind of sets this up for you. And so it automatically shows the name of the event, the date, also the attendees, and now you can just start jumping in here and adding your notes for the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And then you can, if you have any action items like Tim video, and so you can do all of your notes in your minutes for the meeting here, and they're always going to be tied right to that calendar event so that everybody would be able to easily access them afterwards. One other thing before I move on, just from this tips and tricks section, is I don't think we mentioned this before, but you'll notice there's a new item on your left-hand toolbar called Time Insights. This is something sort of new, and if you click on it, it kind of says to you, between the last month, you've spent about 8.5 hours in meetings. And so it's kind of giving you like some updates on that. And if you click on more insights, it opens up over here and it gives you some information about like, these are the people that you've been meeting with. How many hours did you meet with each person? When are your meetings typically? How does this month look compared to last month? And this is just sort of giving you an insight into how much time you're spending on meetings and how to better use your time. So thank you, Google, but I just wanted to let you know that that is there.